Welcome, Author Nation. We're still in lovely Austin. It's starting to warm up and get sunny, and I'm here with David Viergutz. How you doing, David?
It's all right, Joe. Thanks for bringing this together.
Yeah. Bringing you this weather?
Yeah, that's what I said.
So first off, thanks for coming to Author Nation and being one of our speakers. You were talking about fitness there, and how did that all go for you?
It was a great show. I mean, just the environment, the people, the reception of the knowledge, and just it felt like a new show, and you could tell the effort was there, and it was a nice change.
Cool. So I just wanted to get together and kind of chat. You've been doing this a while.
Yeah, it's been about 5 years now.
Yeah, and it's been an exciting story. There's been ups and downs, and I thought it'd be really cool to have you come on and share folks about some of the stuff you've shared with me and how you still have the same love for writing, but how you're monetizing that passion is really different and cool. And this isn't just about like, hey, go do what David did, but like thinking about that whole process of how you were persistent in finding a way for you to connect with a good audience and one that was willing to pay you for what you're doing.
Yeah. I think my story is pretty similar to most authors. They have a desire to write a book. It might have been one that's been rekindled over the years. You write your first book and now it's go time, right? You're taking the courses and you're running the ads and you're writing the next book. And you're maybe get to a situation where there's not a lot of traction. So you start thinking, do I need to switch genres? Do I need to try this method? Do I need to go wide? Do I need to go direct? Like, what do I do to do this? Well, it took me like 17 books before I really started to say, maybe I need to just switch focus a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I never left what I was writing. I always stayed in horror. I branched out in some other genres and that was fun, but it wasn't where I was sticking to. Mm-hmm. I stuck to my guns. I wanted to be in horror and I wanted to write horror, and that was it. And so I knew whatever I was going to do was within that field. And so right up until about right around a year ago, I started looking at direct. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because it was the new thing so much, but because the technology made it really easy to do so. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't getting a lot of love from Amazon and from the retailers. I was driving traffic there. I had a list of 20 or 30,000 people and could not get traction on my books.
Yeah. So so at that time you've had how many books? All horror.
All horror. I had about 15 books, all horror. Yeah.
Okay. And they're KDP in KDP.
Yeah, they were in KDP. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were all KDP, and that's where I was taking my list. I was buying them off of Facebook, mm-hmm. and I had a really good email automation to where I could almost buy them at a profit. So that felt pretty good to be able to just snatch up subscribers off of Facebook that way. And then driving all the traffic to the webpage on launch. I mean, mm-hmm. that's pretty much it. And I had long tail series I was dropping them into, 3, 4, 5 book series, mm-hmm. closely related novels, very similar covers and branding and that sort of thing. And it felt like I was doing all the right things.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, maybe the solution isn't to keep my head against the wall. I wasn't making the kind of money I thought I should be making for the effort I was doing,
mm-hmm.
And so I started looking at alternatives, and the alternative was never wide or direct. It was broader than that, right? The alternative is maybe I need to step away from being a novelist so much and be more focused on being a storyteller, no matter what medium that was.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I started doing was I started writing short stories and getting them narrated and putting them up on YouTube. And I was making good money off of AdSense. And so that gave me a lot of hope in trying new mediums to make money from my writing. And then at about the same time, I launched my direct store and I pulled all my books out of KU.
That had to be pretty scary.
It was only because, well, it was scary in the fact that I said, okay, now it's all on me, right? But I come from an entrepreneur mindset anyways, and so it didn't feel right having a retailer decide most of the business decisions for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the part that was scary. It wasn't the part necessarily where I was like, oh, all my money's gone, because I wasn't making a significant amount of money anyways. So it really wasn't a tough choice.
Yeah.
But it felt good having control. And I think that's where I felt comfortable. And so I launched my direct store and I told all my readers about it. And I said, hey, look, this is where I want you to buy my books. And this was on MailerLite, and I told Joanna Penn this, and she about keeled over. But I said, when I launched my direct store, I had a link in my email. It said, this is the new place to buy my books if you want to support me. I cannot realistically keep relying on Amazon. Here's what I've decided. If you want to buy my books from me, this is the best place to go, and this is where I'd like you to go. If you don't want to go here to my store and buy my books, you can click right here and go buy them from Amazon. And when they clicked that link, it unsubscribed them. So,
do you remember the numbers of people that got unsubscribed?
Yeah, about 2,500 on that day. MailerLite shut down my account.
Oh,
because the number unsubscribed.
Yeah.
But I should have.
Oops.
Yeah, but I sent them an email. I said, "Hey, this is what happened." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem."
Yeah.
We thought you'd gotten in trouble or something. I was like, "No, just." But yeah, so I cleaned my list and sent them to Amazon, or sent them to Shopify, and started launching there. And I increased my prices too. So that was the other thing. I'd no longer price the way people normally do on Amazon, and I started making more money. So all my books now are $6.99 or above, $8.99 for most new releases on ebooks, and print books are $18.99 or $21.99 for signed copies. And that's pretty standard across the board. And I make more money now than I ever have.
Yeah. It's something I've talked about multiple times, and it's people that are making good money too. And it's like, it's almost a law of physics that unless you don't, if you did some egregious price increase, like you pushed your books up to $50 a piece and they were ebooks, but in the majority of times when you do a price increase, you will always be more profitable. Yes, there is the chance that you lose some audience, but if you do it the right way, what you make in profit covers any attrition.
Yeah.
And it's true in every industry. It's not just books, it's, and I think that too often authors their heads get into their customer's wallet, and they don't, they're thinking what I think that customer is willing to pay. It's like, no, you decide what your work is worth.
Exactly right.
And then find the people that agree with you.
Yeah. I don't think any real book reader, there's two different types of readers. We know this. The ones who are going to pay the price of the value of the book because they want the book. Then the ones who read so often they want it at a discount or a bargain. Those are two different readers, and there are plenty of both. And so I don't think any reader is out there saying, you know what, this book is $8.99, but this one I really like too is $6.99. I think I'm going to get the $6.99 better to save that $2.
Yeah.
They'll be in line at Starbucks to spend $7 on a drink and turn your free book away from an email.
Yeah.
They'll say, I don't want the free book, and they'll just delete your email. That wasn't because of the price. It's clearly not the price. So we need to stop this race to the bottom, thinking that we're catching a wave of people who are just like, oh my gosh, I'm so price sensitive to this book that I seriously want that it's not worth the $2 increase that you could just put on it.
Yeah, it's crazy, and especially when you think about if you do move the book, from like $3.99 to $6.99, like you would have to lose half of your customers.
Yeah,
right. Like, and then when you move it off to a direct site where you get more, right? It's not just that you double the price. It's that now you've gone from 60% margin to a 97% margin.
Yeah. I think what I pay through Shopify is 3%. I just call it at 3. There's some credit card transaction fees and stuff, but it's 3% in general is what you can expect from just a credit card processing of any kind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a decent price to pay, because when you look at how many sales you were getting anyways, and you're like, well, I'll just increase the price a little bit. The difference is, like you said, like half of your customers would have to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and at that same time, the Taylor Swift thing was going on. Like, it comes in waves, but this was a big deal. And I saw
first $1 billion waves.
Yeah, exactly. The first billion. And I saw, and I started looking at the music industry, right? Because they're very similar to what we do. It's entertainment, and it's consumed, in rapid amounts. There's always a new song every 3 minutes, right? So the next longest medium, you've got podcasts in an hour, you got YouTube videos a couple hours, and then you've got books at 7, 8, 9 hours.
Yeah.
So media is consumed very quickly, and there's never enough music to go around, and there's never enough books to go around. You can always have more coming. The readers always can consume faster than we can produce. So I started looking what the music industry was doing with their stuff. And I was like, well, she's got books, or she's got music, which is streaming, and that's like on Spotify, and she gets a little bit off of that. And then she's got merchandise, and it's like $20 per hat and stuff like that. And then you can buy the record or the CD and sign copies, like $1 bajillion. But then you can go to her show, right? And her show's got tickets, like nosebleed tickets are like $440.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's sold out. And I was like, well, why can't I sell something that's $449? And so I started looking at what the experience of Taylor Swift promised, right? It was like, you get to come and see her in person. You get an experience that memories that you'll last for a lifetime, right? And we kind of promise these vicariously through books. We promise it through the stories. There's no real lead into it. It's not inherent. It's just something you hope for. The reader hopes for. Like, please let me remember this book that's going to wreck me for the rest of my life, right? And I'll always remember that one. Please let this book have that. We can't promise that in it, but through an experience, you can, right? So I looked at, how can I create an experience for my readers and charge premium for it? And I was standing there looking out the front door, and I was thinking about experiences. I just imagined my cul-de-sac with like a big pop-up tent, and I could charge people $100, $200 to come to this event. There's a big, it was just nonsense thinking. But then I saw my mailbox, and I said, there's nothing good in that thing, and I got to check it later. It's got bills in it. I know it. And then that's where the idea of Scare Mail came. I said, what if I could promise an experience to readers, still write what I want to write, bring them a little bit of joy, fix that problem in their life, that thing that they see every day. And I want them to think about me and my brand and my story every day. Because I know I check the mail every day and all I get is bad news. And so I looked and I said, there it is. There's the answer. And so I created Scare Mail. And it is a story that can only be told through letters. So I know a lot of people want to write their own letters now. Like, I want to write the next Scare Mail.
Yeah. There's a lot of hype around this kind of thing.
And it's not a novel chopped up into pieces. That's not what it is. It is written in a way that feeds into that excitement. I want to go to the mail, not because I want to know what the story is about, but because I'm part of that story now. And so it brings the reader in a little bit further because it's inherent to the story. So I created Scare Mail, and we scaled up very quickly. And now we're, alternate media for my writing is like where I want to be now. What can I create next?
It can't be a book.
It cannot be a book. Exactly. Anything but a book is kind of where I'm at. And not because I'm against novelists. I'm not against it. I'm not against what readers or writers are doing. But I said, I can create freely. I'm not constrained to the book.
No, it's a really cool place. Now, when that happened, how familiar were you with like direct mail and concepts around that? Because this is not a new idea. This is like 1880s idea.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar at all. And I had to learn very quickly about the mail system. I've invested, I think at this point, I've invested a full-time job's worth per month into learning more about the mail system, including foreign mail systems. I'm very familiar with Canada and how their mailing system works, Australia and how their addresses are laid out and how the provinces get delivered and all this stuff. And so I've had to very quickly become an expert on it. And I can tell you that is an amazing thing. The postal system is our friend. A lot of people don't like it because like my stuff doesn't deliver. And I'm like, well, there's a human on the other end of that. That is something that you can't get rid of. There's going to be errors there. But did you know that the majority of your packages come with insurance, and it's very easy to get that money back out for an insurance claim through your post? A lot of people didn't know that. And, it says insured up to X amount of dollars, right? On a lot of, especially when you do like media mail, you can do, it's insured up to a certain amount, and you can get that money out if your package doesn't get delivered. Yeah. So I didn't know that, and I had to learn it. And it's been a lot of fun. It's a whole nother way of reaching readers that I'm like, look, don't create the Scare Mail. Use what I did, which is very difficult, and create an experience, which is a whole lot easier, right? So take the idea and run with that and do it better than I did. Because Scare Mail is very expensive, it's very time consuming, and it may not be the medium you want to write in anyways. But like I said, like you said, anything but a book.
Yeah. So if you're thinking, if I came up and I'm trying to get my mind around this. What for you is the difference between writing a novel and crafting an experience?
It's a good question. So, I mean, with a novel, we're trying to entertain, right? So the real test of a novel's worth is how long can we keep the reader's eyes, right? So you got 8 hours straight. If you can keep them in their chair for 8 hours straight where they forget the bathroom and to eat, you won, right? They'll remember you. They'll come back to the next one. Kind of the same idea happens with an experience when you're crafting it. You say, what are my objectives? Do I want them to be just so enthralled with this thing that they got to go buy another one right away, right? Is that the objective? Get them, I love this thing, buy another one. Or is the objective, hey, I get to look forward to something every single day now because I couldn't before. I used to get nothing but bad news, but now I get to check my mail and it feels good to go do that walk every day. Or is it, hey, Scare Mail brings together two people on the other side of the country who are both experiencing something together, and a father and a son could now open the mail and talk about it together because they both got their letters in the same time. You know, you're solving a problem. So when you're crafting that experience, it should solve the problem for the reader. Whatever that problem is, you can make it up, right? For me, it was the mailbox sucks and I've got a cool story to tell, right? So that's where I started, you know, and there's a reason it resonates because Amazon, like for example, Amazon solves your problems by delivering your stuff fast and cheap. Same day delivery is the craziest thing I've ever seen. You know, I kind of expected a drone to show up.
Yeah.
You know, but in this, you know, with Scare Mail, it does not promise fast. It just promises, hey, this is going to get here eventually. There's a little bit of a hope and a prayer there. And when it gets here, I think you're going to love it because it's got your name on it. It's gorgeous. The papers, it feels good in your hands. It's collectible. The story's enthralling. And on top of that, you solve the problem of having that thing, the mailbox. It's a small problem to solve. You know, an example of this, like I was thinking about this a long time ago. I have a close-knit reader subscription. This is my top tier fan base. You know, people who are willing to spend more money on you if you just give them the opportunity, right? Have something premium that you can sell them. They're trying to spend more money on you.
Yeah.
Everyone else is giving out paper bookmarks, 7 cents, you know, and then the next level up from that was like a paper bookmark that had a QR code to go do something. So that's the next level up. I'm like, okay, so that's a little bit better. I turned my bookmarks into solid steel. And so now it's like a ninja star. Like it's solid. Like if a paper bookmark goes away, I throw it away and there's 100 other on the rack.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget where my solid steel bookmark is. And it's got my brand and my website on it. And it's even functional too, where it saves the page. Like that is something that people will remember, right? It's like a paperweight.
Yeah.
You'll see it. It holds your paper down. It's right there. And it's got something in the middle that's cool to look at while it's on your desk. Kind of the same way, it solves that issue for the reader. I'll never have to find another bookmark again because this one's made out of solid steel. And so I was thinking about this a long time ago is, you know, what are the nonfiction guys doing that the fiction guys aren't? You know, and they're either promising experiences or they're promising to fix problems for the reader, or for, you know, whatever they're selling, you know, for the course or whatever. They're these pain points that they're hitting. And we as fiction authors can tap into that. And the way I did was just through an experience.
Yeah. It's interesting when you think about it because, so much is sold on the emotion, right? And including even courses, right? It's like, why did people buy that? It's because they expect something magical to happen. Like I buy it and then everything he promised is just going to happen in my life, which is not what's being sold. What's being sold is you're going to watch a bunch of videos and you have to do some work and then maybe the stuff that's not really the experience that I want. I just want the good stuff. So like in your case, you can kind of do that, right? You don't have, all they have to do is open up the envelope and read, and then the experience starts to unfold.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the opening session with Drew?
I did.
So I got to ask you, after seeing that, did that change any of your thinking around what you're going to do in the future with your product?
Yes. Yeah. So like at this time, people wait 2 weeks for that letter. And it's all about that word suspense, right? So could I keep a reader in suspense for several weeks, right? And so I love that idea of the ticking time bomb. You know what's going to go off. You know the rubber bands are going to snap the thing. and that keeps in my mind, that keeps me as an author top of mind. If I can keep the reader in suspense about what's going to happen next, can I keep them top of mind? Can I be that thing that they always remember? Because this is how I see it. It's the 7 touches, right? To get somebody to make a purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're in my ecosystem, there's the biweekly letters that they get. There's the Facebook page they can join. There's the pen pal service that they get that's part of the package. It's free. We pair them up with somebody. My brand is over everything. And then there's the weekly emails I send them as an author. So I get my 7 touches every day from these people. When they go out to go look for the mailbox, they are looking for me and my brand. And so for me, the suspense was already built into it. And so I said, how do I capitalize on it? And yeah, we got some stuff planned for next year to give people something to do in the meantime, right? So in between your letters, what are you going to get next? And, and authors are doing this great with books too. They're like, hey, here's the tip-ins, and here's the vellum pages, and here's the knowledge database, and here's the click this link for the wiki about this thing. Authors are doing this. They're building it in. And so I just think it's probably a time in the industry where like, hey, look, we can stay top of mind with our readers, build out that suspense beyond the book. It doesn't have to be just while they're reading. So yeah, I did take a little bit away from it. I got some action items, and it's going to be really cool.
Yeah. It's funny how impactful that was for a lot of people. And even though it wasn't like, hey, this is how you make a book better, but like if you watch that and you took it in and you saw him take something as boring as that FreshBooks video and make it like life-threatening, and just that has so many applications, whether it's in the actual story creation or in the experience around your brand. It's stuff we're thinking about with the show. It's not, we want you thinking about and using, like, the biggest thing for us is if we can get you to actually go back into those videos after and use that content, right? Like we all like, oh, I want the videos because I know there's something in there that's important. But how many people actually go do that?
Sure.
Right. But if we can do the experience right, which is what's that, the perfect author experience is that you get something that can help your business, and somebody else that has got a similar problem, you work on that problem together and you do it together in a network like that makes you less lonely. That makes you have a better opportunity of success. And then how you feel about the brand is different. So like, can you give some examples of like how, you set out to have the brand be felt, and then like now that you've had this going for as long as you have, getting the feedback that's either validating that or telling you need to do better? I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, the feeling I try to generate with this is even though horror is horrific, right? This is the thing I try to explain is like, there's still some good to be had. There's still some joy. So tapping into the emotions, and you spoke about this a little bit about the other genres, but like using emotion, what is the emotion that my readers will connect with most? And it's not horror. Horror is just the flavor.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually joy. There is something cool in the mailbox for me. Period. It's not an Amazon package thrown at your front door. It's in the mailbox. It's personal. It's got my name on it. And it's from somebody who thinks like I do. That is the joy. That's what we tap into. And it's a little joy that we've just taken and brought it out over a long period of time. And of course, we made it collectible. We made it gorgeous. The story has to be on point because it is the promise of opening the book, right? So the first part is, here's all the things that we're going to do for you. There's joy in that because I'm going to receive it. Here's all the promises. Then you pop open the letter, and then here's the content, right? It has to be on point, just like with the book. So joy. And that allows me to unite people from a creator's perspective and say, look, yeah, I write horror stories, but I'm going to bring a little joy to your mailbox. And that's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
And all we do is we make it seamless. So you make it easy to receive that joy. That's what Amazon did with their packages. They said, hey, we're going to get it there fast. We're going to get it there cheap, and it's going to arrive, and we'll take care of you if it doesn't. I mean, you're solving problems.
Yeah.
And so I said to myself, I may write scary things. My story may be horrific, but I'm going to bring some joy to your life. That's why we did the Scare Mail pen pals.
Mm-hmm.
It has zero benefit to me. It's all labor on my end. But all I do is connect readers under that banner of joy. And so now I'm being associated with joy. And so, yeah, I mean, the romance readers do this amazing, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
They unite people under lust and love and that sort of thing. And about the message between the two characters and about happy ever after, and about what their life could be, you know, the meet cutes and the perfect life. Like it's selling a dream, right? Sometimes it depends on the direction you go with the story, but
Yeah.
and so I looked to the romance readers. I said, how are they connecting emotionally so strong with their readers? Maybe I can do the same with horror, because people experience horror as a very raw emotion, you know? So I wrote about things that scare me, you know? The first story of Scare Mail is about an AI. You know, AI scares a lot of people because they don't, it's unknown. We don't know what direction it's going, you know, and we don't know what's capable of. We've seen Terminator, right? We know what happens when the AI takes over. And so that was the message. That was the story. I wrote about something that kind of worries me a little bit. But then I threw joy over top of it.
Yeah. One, not that it's my thing, but there's a lot of people that love to be scared, right? Like they go to haunted houses and then you know, I think one of the greatest things that the internet has done is it made it possible, sometimes not so great, but like to make it possible for you to find your group, however small and weird it might be.
Yep.
But that idea of I belong to this group is so powerful, right? It's a human need that, you know, if you feel that you're being banished from a group, like we know psychologically how horrible that is. So it's just really going to be interesting to see how this manifests over time with your community and how that becomes a mechanism for your advertising.
Yeah. Communities is one of the, it's a tenet, right? It works really well with the Care Mail, right? It's all through the delivery system. But building that community and say, hey, like you said, a group of misfits. Hey, you're horror readers. That's okay. Welcome. Here are your weird people just like you, right? Or what people say are weird. And it's like, you know, the fantasy folks, they do this amazing. They got these beautiful cons where you got people who just dress up in these amazing cosplay, like spend thousands of hours building. And it's like, man, like, why can't we do that? Why is there nothing for horror people? And so I think that's what I did. I don't think that this method, right, the Scare Mail method, will work for other genres. I don't think so. I think it'll work for people whose genres who feel like it hasn't been heard before. But like I said, deliver them something that they can't get anywhere else. Surround them around a message. Surround them behind an idea that you genuinely believe in. I write horror, but I believe in joy, right? And then offer them something they can't get anywhere else, that can only come from you. Make it unique. That's all it is.
So I'm sure you've had a lot of people, you'll certainly have more after this, that are like, hey, tell me how to do this. What's the single biggest thing that they need to know why not to do this?
Yeah. So if you think this is a get rich quick scheme, it's not. I can tell you my investment into this is hundreds of thousands of dollars, from warehousing to employees to equipment. If you are not willing to stand in front of a printer at 3:00 in the morning so that your employees have it warm enough at 5:00 in the morning when they get in, this is not for you. But if you just want to say, you know what, sending some letters to my core fan base based on maybe a character or a side story or something like that, so that it increases my relationship with them, do that. You should absolutely. It's no different than a podcast. It's no different than a short story in a chat book. It's no different than that. It's just, I did it in letters. So yes, if your intention is to build closer relationships with your readers and bring them into your fold in another way and continue to give them more than they had from you before, if you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to set aside maybe your ego, right, that says, no, I've got to write novels and that's what I give them. If you can set those things aside, then yeah, write some letters. You should. because it's going to test you and train you to write differently.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's also funny on the email side of things, how many authors really are kind of resistant to email marketing and doing that. And for me, it's like, okay, so let me get this right. You're looking for people who like to read words. The medium is words.
Yeah.
You're supposedly really good at writing words. Why isn't this a slam dunk for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I know from our conversations, for you, it's not only the print mailing and that whole experience, and it's not just like letters, like there's cool shit in the envelopes.
Yes. Yeah.
But what you're doing on the email side too is fits right with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I rewrote my messaging, and I rewrote it behind a big why. So not only did somebody like say, oh man, I want this thing. Now they get an email from the author that says, here's why I did it. Here's why this matters. Here's why you should care. That's one of my top headlines right now. Why you should care. And then my second top line, it's not about letters, it's about culture. So just like we talked about people coming into your fold, and surrounding themselves with other people like them, I address it directly in an email. I say, it's not about the letters, it's about culture. You are one of us. And so, yeah, I've completely rewritten my onboarding sequence. They get an onboarding sequence regardless if you use the coupon on my website or if you just buy Scare Mail or if you just buy a book. You get that same onboarding sequence that talks about the why. Not like why I became an author. Like I'm a creative person and, I've always wanted to write stories that from my heart.
Yeah.
And like, I've always had stories in my heart. Someone told me I'd be a great writer one day and I just never did it. And now I did. Like we know this. Mm-hmm. The authors, the readers know this. They know that your heart's in it. You wrote a book. It's not easy to do that. Like that's a very difficult task. What they fail to do is to explain the why behind that particular book.
Mm.
Because it could only be written by you, right? So the why for me was, hey, why did Scare Mail have to be? Not can come to be. Why did it have to be? Because you have solutions. And I keep talking about this, solutions and problems. You have solutions for the reader. So talk about the why you had to solve that issue for them and put that in your emails. And that will resonate with them so much.
Well, I also think, kind of what we talked about earlier, and there's like, what's in it for them, mm-hmm. right? Like they're giving you a nice chunk of money for this. They have, helping them understand what the experience is and how to get the most out of that experience. Mm-hmm. Like that's not a bad thing to kind of onboard them and help them to really get the value you want them to have.
Yeah, you get a better quality customer. There's a lot of customer service in this. So if you do anything that's long tail, mm-hmm. there's a lot of customer service. Customers have expectations that you're going to take care of them. They paid you money, you're expected to deliver on that thing. And so if they're resonating better with the idea, if they're resonating more with the why, they come to understand a little bit more when things don't go right. Or, a lot of the feedback that I've gotten was, hey, I'm up to letter 3 and I'm a little bored. I'm like, well, a story takes time to build. It's a 24-letter story. And like, I guess you're right. Maybe I should wait for the next ones, and so they get to letter 4 or 5, 6, but if there's a consistent amount in there, hey, look, every time I get a letter 3 sent out, everyone's like, oh, it sucks. What do I do? Okay, maybe I need to adjust the story. We know what that's like. If it's consistently getting read through dropped off, then, but yeah, so I mean, I think if you're genuine, if you do it for the right reasons, if you explain the why, you'll bring people in, mm-hmm. and they'll understand you and they'll feel like they're connected with you. And people over platforms, like that's what a good friend of mine said. People over platforms. You can have a platform all day long. You can have Amazon and Facebook and all that, but if you're not building that people platform in the background, like that's what really stands Scare Mail up. Is that I know I have a group of people who love what I gave them, who love what I have to say, who now love me, that I could sell them the next Scare Mail without even putting a picture up, and they'd buy it. And that's what you want to build, to the tune of one at a time, over a long period of time.
Well, and the stuff that you by changing this process. And granted, there's more to it in the sense of like, yes, you have to stuff envelopes and you have stock, and you and I have talked ad nauseum about like it's a merchandising business. You have to have stuff, but the idea of once you were like anything but a book, now you've got this whole thing that's like way higher price point. You have the holy grail of customer information. I mean, you have billing data.
Yep.
Right. And offhand, what would you say your list, how much bigger your list is from when you were kind of doing the Amazon KU thing to where you're at now? Like,
yeah. So
10X, is it?
So my MailerLite list, when I really abandoned it, eventually I abandoned it. I said, hey, if you don't want to buy from my store at this point, this list is going away. Now there's some author friends I kept, and my ARC team, they were on a separate portion, and I exported those. There were about 100 people. But after that, I realized they were just there to open my emails or read what I had to say, and they weren't interested in buying from me, and that's okay. It took me 5 years of building that nice, clean, scrubbed list of Amazon buyers, and it was 30,000. I abandoned that list with 30,000 people on it. I only took about 1,000 people over to my direct store who bought something.
Okay.
And so now, over the last 6.5 months, I have another list now. My Klaviyo list is 60,000 people. So that's 60,000 names, phone numbers, addresses, birth dates. They can enter the birth date, and I have most of them.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I not only have the people who are purchasing, but like you said, the recipients as well. So my list is probably about double that. I've probably got about 100,000 now on my list if you count the billing data versus the people who are actually getting the item.
Yeah.
So it's very giftable. And that's the other thing, is that like my ads are very good at reaching the people who will gift it to somebody else, even if it doesn't reach them directly.
No, it's, yeah. I remember, I think it was 2018. Oh, it's 5 years ago. I can't remember. Yeah, I guess I'm in my 5th season. So, I did a bunch of research when I wrote the book Advantage, and I was just like, everything I'm doing with my mailing list is wrong. And I'd done a lot of research, and it was all about building a list and, making offers and all that stuff. And I did a similar thing where I lost 60%. I said, hey, you're on my mailing list. I'm going to send 3 emails about this story about Las Vegas. If you want this, click it. You're going to get it. Otherwise, you're not going to be on my list anymore. Now, I didn't do the unsubscribe. I just, because I knew that would get me. But like, it was disheartening. And then it was at the end of that, I said, if you want the next thing, this is what it's going to be like. It's 45 emails. It's going to be a story. That following year after that, I said, if you want this, you're going to pay for it. And in that process, now I have a paid newsletter that people have subscribed to for up to 5 years. But it was psychologically really hard because you have to give up on, like, my list shrunk to almost nothing.
Yep.
And it's like all that work, all that.
Yeah. So there's at that point you can look at it, if you can look at it objectively. You're like, okay, I can either have a list that feels really good to have. I have a list of emails. What's more powerful, a list of emails or a list of customers?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you build friction in and say, look, I'm giving you as much as I can for free, right? And if that's what you're here for, that's fine. But understand that it may not be this way forever. And you create that and say, if you want to be here, and you get that person to click and they say, yes, I want that thing. When they make a sale, you've done all the right things up to that point to convince them that this is the thing that they want. Everybody else, they either need convincing or they're never going to buy. And so when you clean that list that way and you end up with a nice, solid, clean reader list, like I hear a lot of authors complain about, hey, I only got 500 people on my list or 1,000 people on my list. I'm like, okay, well, how did you build that list? Well, it's all organic from the back of my book. And I'm like, that is a good list.
Yeah, that's the Glengarry list.
That's the best list you could have.
Yeah.
Like, I ran Facebook ads to tunes of thousands of dollars. Like, that is not a clean list, but it is a way to get a list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, don't knock the fact that your list is only 500 people. That could be 500 of your core audience that every time you launch a book, every single one of them could buy your book or have a higher propensity to.
Yeah. Well, I know for the stuff that we do, because we're so into segmenting, you have a big list, but who's in what point of a story sequence that hey, this part of the list, I know these 1,800 people have finished the book in this, whatever the last book in this series, and they're waiting for the next book. Mm-hmm. Those 1,800 people are going to buy more. Like, they're waiting, they're ready. They just need to be reminded. They want to be reminded, right? Oh yeah, that's right. I was going to pre-order it, but I forgot. And then that triggers so much, right? Especially if you're in the Amazon ecosystem, that buying signal is something that the system can replicate over and over. Now, it's different in your situation where you're doing more direct stuff now. But it certainly helps on your advertising side.
For sure. Yeah. And understanding customer behavior, right? And understanding what phase they are in your ecosystem. Are they a core reader? Or are they a super fan that's now on your subscription every month on your Patreon? Like, if you are not treating these people like gold and asking them, hey, why are you still here? Like, what are you getting out of this? Like, am I giving you everything you could ask for? And then trying to feed more into that thing that is working. Like, you should be aiming for those people, right? And then you're going to have the people who aren't even buying anything. They're just there. They may like your story. They may like the way you write. Like, I used to write a lot about how I was a cop. There were a lot of people who just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I made it very at home and very easy to understand and digest. And it was just kind of my shtick. And so they were there just for that. And they told me, you ask them, hey, you here just because I talk about being a cop? I'm like, yeah. Okay, fair. You can still be there.
Yeah.
Like, but that's a different type of person. And what people don't understand is that not everyone's a reader. Not everyone's a buyer. Not everyone's a super fan. And so if you learn how to talk to those people individually, especially through, like you said, list segmentation, if you're not segmenting your list, I don't know anything, like everybody knows this, but it costs you nothing to have additional segments in your list. You can start categorizing people based on their actions. If they click every single email, you should have a segment that says, clicked every email.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful part of your list. And it gets you, even if you're in the Amazon ecosystem, it gets you to understand your reader's behavior without being in a direct store, right? So like you get more knowledge off of them just by having those little segments.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what we do with our marketing, and we use Kartra, and we've got very detailed lists and tags, and everything is behavior driven, and we need to know, like, what emails we should send you based on, are you, what pages you've landed on, and not that we're on the hard sell, but it helps you to get the messaging right. It helps you to think like, oh, okay, this person is interested. Maybe the email that needs to go to them isn't like another like blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. It's like, it's a simple one. Like, I see you've been sniffing around. What questions do you have?
Yeah. It's not malicious,
no.
Right? Learning more about your people. It's how can I better communicate with you?
Yeah.
That's it. How can I better get the message across that I have? Especially if it's a good one, right? You're like, hey, I've got this really cool thing. I think you like it, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, having those campaigns, having those follow-ups. Hey, did you click my last email? Why not? And asking them, you'll get responses, and you can take a portion of those and be like, hey, if I got 100 people, right, and I got 8 people that said, well, I didn't click because of this, and they all said the same thing. That's good data you should be using. So I think authors are starting to catch on a lot more now about communicating better with the reader, other than here's my next coolest thing that I have. It goes beyond that.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been great having you on the show. Why don't you tell people like where they can find you, what's up right now, and
sure. Yeah, I don't and I give this spiel a lot. I don't have any courses to sell. I got if you want to talk to me, I'll talk to anybody. I didn't get to where I'm at here by myself. I had a lot of help over the years from a lot of great people who only asked me to say, you know what, when it's your turn, share.
Mm.
So if I can help somebody, I will. I love this community, and I came from fitness, so this was a nice change the way people treat me. So just davidviergutz.com. My email address is there. You're welcome to reach out to me, and I'll do what I can to help if I can.
Awesome. And yeah, if you may see he does an amazing job with his ads and stuff. If you're got any kind of inclinations towards horror, you'll probably see those scare mail emails pop up.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show,
Joe. Appreciate it, sir.
All right.